A song about buying records, a song about buying music. It goes like this.
LPs!
1, 2, 3. Well, I don't know how it started. I suppose it was about the 10th grade. I had never bought much music. I just listened to whatever was played. But there was classic rock there on the radio, and it was blowing my mind. It was all the records no one wanted now, so they were easy to find. So I started getting LPs. They only cost a little, and these LPs were all the ones I needed from the 60s, with psychedelic art on all the great sleeves, much cooler and much cheaper than the CDs, and that's the way I caught the disease. I caught the disease for LPs. There wasn't any internet, a lot of times you just took a shot. Pretty soon you figured out which records would be awesome or not. If the year was from the 60s, it was probably good bang for your buck. If the year was from the 80s, it was guaranteed to totally suck. I started learning about the LPs. At that time, education just cost little fees. $3 for this Dylan record, oh yes please. And the Cream and Rolling Stones on Orlo, the threes. A giant treasure trove was all for pennies, and that's the way I caught the disease. Completed all my Zeppelin and Floyd. I had all the early traffic, but their later stuff just made me annoyed. You realize that the radio just scratches at the top of the dirt. When $4 can buy you Crown of Creation with the lyric insert. So I had a lot of LPs. My friends are mostly clueless. It was just me in an ocean of cheap vinyl like a Black Sea. I hardly had an income, but it was easy. World awaited with a cheap key, and sometimes in the garbage they were just free, and that's the way I caught the disease. I caught the disease for LPs. And then the 90s ended, and I wasn't no teenager no more. But I started getting shakes if I was passing any used record store. I got the finger muscles you develop when you flip through a stack. Cheap and obscure, and there was no turning back. A total junkie for the LPs, and nothing in the world was gonna help me. You'd see me quit no sooner than see hell freeze, and there was nothing like the thrill of getting lucky. I'd be flying 5 Gs to the breeze. 'Cause the world is still awash in LPs, and I still had the disease for LPs. Stuff is so expensive, I hardly bother to try. Everything's been so picked over, anything left is priced really high. The field is overcrowded, it's impossible to get a good fix. So I walk right past the records, and I flip through all the used compact discs. But nowadays it's mostly CDs, no one wants to keep them, so there's plenty. Folk and punk and private press and rap and indie. Bonus tracks and liner notes are just empty. As long as I can still make a good discovery, I've still got that music hunger disease. That disease that I caught from LPs. When they were dirt cheap in the 1990s. You see, whatever people don't want, that's the time to get it. Take a chance on something that might blow your mind. And if it's cheap, there's less chance you'll regret it. Though I'm drowning in my stacks because of all the stupid albums I used to try. Nowadays, looking back, I just regret the ones that I didn't buy. Oh, you know what? Okay, before we do some requests, I have a request of my own, because I feel like there's a slightly unfair statement in that previous song where I say that all records from the 80s were guaranteed to totally suck. But I have to clarify that by pointing out that the reason that I felt that way was because I was buying 60s artists. So I was like, oh, when I pick up the 1980s Jefferson Airplane album, that really sucks. When I pick up the 1980s David Crosby album, that's a stinker. So I got to stick with the 60s records because all their 80s albums suck. But I didn't realize until many years later that there actually were very good albums in the 80s. They were just totally different artists from the ones that were around in the 60s, such as this band that really became a favorite of mine, this band Crass, a British anarchist punk band. I ended up doing a whole album of Crass covers. So just to apologize to the small handful of 80s bands that didn't suck, of which is a very tiny percentage, it must be said. But Crass, well, they started in the late 70s, so maybe they almost count as a late 70s band. They got grandfathered in there. But we will do this, well, let's see.